Good morning. Thank you, that's great. So, yeah, I'm John Butterworth. I'm the CEO of National Gas. We're a $10 billion company. We take gas from the beach, whether it's from LNG terminals or it's from the North Sea or the Irish Sea. If we need to, we blend it, treat it, filter it, and then we dispatch it at super high pressures to the cities or industry. That's what we do. And I want to talk to you about two things. I want to talk about the reality of energy today, because of course we've got to electrify the hell out of everything. It's a no-brainer. But I want to talk about the reality of energy today, and I want to talk about the affordability and making sure that in our society, a fair society, that no one's left behind. So if we just talk about resilience of the system, let's take today, this morning, 23 million homes, families. Gas provides the heating and hot water. 500,000 businesses wouldn't function if they don't have a gas, whether it's natural gas or hydrogen. And this morning at 8:20, 53.2% of UK's electricity generation was from gas. So gas is really important to us. In 2022, just on the electric side, 246 days of the year, 30% of the energy to make electricity was from gas. So I'm going to talk about the reality of it, the importance of it, and how we then lean into hydrogen, as the Mayor has talked about previously. So let's talk about choice. Choice, domestic choice. So it's great to say, let's electrify everything, and where we can do, of course we should. Let's have far better insulation in homes. Let's do ultimately more than we're doing today, but 86% of all the houses that are going to be around in 2050 are already built. So how are we going to insulate them in a way that decent, hard-working families can afford to get on the net zero bandwagon and help out? It's important that we think about that. We have to give people choice, and we believe that there's got to be a blend. I think some families will have a hybrid solution of solar, heat pump, and when that's not working or it's really cold, a small gas boiler. Whatever it is, we've got to find an answer. But for sure, hydrogen's going to have to play a part in that, because if we have a really cold winter, and when I say really cold, I'm saying -4 degrees C and more for more than 4 or 5 days, we are going to need hydrogen if we're not going to use natural gas. Not just for electricity, but for industry and the domestic population. And I think we've got to be really careful that in the domestic scene around net zero, that electrification solely without a balanced response, using gas and then leaning into hydrogen, means that it becomes the preoccupation of the wealthy and the privileged. Because I was at a food bank 3 weeks ago in Failsworth in Manchester with the Deputy Shadow Prime Minister. And I was talking to an elderly couple, and they were saying, yeah, John, we're saving up for an EV charger, not a car. They were saving up an amount of money a week to put aside to see if they could get a charger on the wall. So I think we've got to think a lot around the customer lens, the affordability lens and the vulnerability lens, that can people afford this? And therefore we have to have a blended solution. And then I talk about industry. 500,000 businesses, from fish and chip shops to glassworks, to Tate and Lyle, to heavy steam raising, etc., whatever it might be. It's great to say, well, we'll move all industry to the coast, we can take the CO2 emissions away and sequestrate them out in the North Sea or the Irish Sea, wherever they are, and it's all fine. But if you've got a fish and chip shop and you're a family business that's been there for 60 years, and you've just spent £115,000 on your chip range, you don't understand what the heck is going on. So we've got to make sure there is a solution for industry, because if there is not a solution for industry, and 320,000 of those businesses are small, medium family businesses, if there's not an answer for them, they're out of business if they haven't got hydrogen, if natural gas becomes illegal. And so we've got to show signals of investment. We've got to now, in whatever government gets in power, make sure that everyone knows that these small businesses have got to change their burners, they've got to change some of their kit, but they need signals now to invest for the future up to 2050. If you've got a glassworks or a cement works in Buxton, you need to know now with your boards in Mexico that the money's going to be available because there's certainty that we will have hydrogen. Or there's 1.5 million jobs will leave our shores to other countries where it won't be illegal. So I think it's really important to get a blended answer in energy. Because as I say, when you look at what is happening this morning, we need to make sure that we have a solution to replace natural gas, as well as electrifying, as I said earlier, the hell out of everything. And then I move on to security of supply. Only 40% of the gas that we're burning this morning and in winter is indigenous, either in our territorial waters or in the UK. And with what's happened in the Ukraine, which has been a game changer for us, we need to make sure and rethink that will all the commercial markets work in the future? And do we need to have better security of supply in our country and in Ireland? Because, you know, we've seen for the first time in my career, and I've been in the industry, in the energy industry and utilities for 44 years, we were exporting a third of UK energy all through the summer last year into Europe. And this morning we'll be pushing more gas into Europe than the Russians are pushing into Europe, which was unthinkable a year ago. So we have to think the unthinkable and make sure this country, you know, one of my duties is to make sure this country, as energy security, should we lean into a reasonable cold period. And that requires a gas, whether it's natural gas or whether it's hydrogen, but it requires a gas. So I want to dispel this electrification for the sake of electrification. What we need is a balanced response that our country can afford. And then lastly, I want to talk to you about hydrogen. So we're doing lots and lots of stuff around that. We're going to repurpose 300 kilometres of our high-pressure pipeline up in Scotland to decarbonise Grangemouth and take the CO2 out with our partners into the North Sea and lock it down for millennium. We're going to repurpose 2,000 kilometres of our pipelines going down the east coast of England, where we'll pick up a third of heavy industry and start to decarbonise that with hydrogen. The project's called Project Union. The test bed's already built up at an RAF base in Spade Adam. All the tests are taking place. Next week we start to put small amounts of hydrogen in the system. We've cut pipes up from all around the UK to bring them to this centre, so when we inject hydrogen in it at high pressure, we know that it's bits of kit that have been around since 1960. And I want to talk about 1960 because there's this discussion around, is hydrogen safe? From 1812 to 1968, we were burning to 14 million customers 51% hydrogen, because that's what coal gas had in it, without any problems whatsoever. So there is no problems, it's just the will, it's the imagination, it's the endeavour, it's the foresight, like our forefathers that built the canals and the railways. It's not a project, hydrogen, it's an endeavour to change our society. And we think that's really important. So we are going to lean into, in National Gas, into hydrogen with all of our partners. We are going to have hydrogen in our pipelines, whether we like it or not, because it will be coming in from Europe. And what we need is a big debate about the affordability, making sure we leave nobody behind. It cannot just be for the rich, electrification. And we make sure that whilst we do that, we've got security of supply for the United Kingdom and Ireland, because Ireland's fed off the UK, so that when we lean into net zero, we do it in a way that we take everybody with us. Thank you.